This is a deep dive into the silent, often disorienting process of personal quantum alignment. We will explore the subtle energetic shifts, the profound neurobiological restructuring, and the necessary reorganization of relationships and identity that occurs when your consciousness prepares for its next, most powerful chapter. This journey is not about manifestation techniques. It is about becoming the frequency of the reality you desire. What you are witnessing right now is the foundation phase of your winning season. The most profound transformations in life rarely announce themselves with fanfare or a drum roll. Instead, they begin with a palpable, yet unspoken, change in your very presence. Something has shifted in your energy field lately. People can sense it, your colleagues, your family, even strangers passing you on the street, because the field you are broadcasting has changed its fundamental tone. This is the silent revolution of self. It's the slight lift in your chin, the stillness in your eyes, the profound lack of need to fill a silence. This shift is a magnetic truth. Your energetic signature is broadcasting a new bandwidth, and the subtle, unconscious systems of others are picking up on the signal. We have been conditioned only trust transformation when it is visible, but the most powerful alchemy is always happening in the invisible realm of your personal frequency. Think of how the way you carry yourself through moments that once felt heavy now flows differently. Consider the moment a week ago when a familiar, frustrating situation arose, perhaps an email from a difficult client or a critical word from a relative. In your old frequency, that moment would have been a friction point, a heavy stone dragging through the current of your day. Now, you observe a fluid response. There is no resistance, only a gentle redirection. The weight of the moment simply lacks the gravity to pull you into the old emotional spin cycle. This shift from friction to flow is the first tangible sign that your inner gyroscope has found a new, more balanced axis. It's the difference between wading through mud and stepping onto glass. The path is clearer, and your personal gait is lighter because you are no longer resisting the landscape. Notice how conversations that used to pull you into their gravity no longer have the same magnetic hold. We are all constantly bathed in the emotional and mental gravity of those around us, the complaining, the gossip, the rehashing of old trauma. For years, you participated, not necessarily because you agreed, but because the emotional gravity of the conversation was strong enough to ensnare your attention. Now, you find a new, almost physical distance. You are still present, but the conversation's energy fails to hook your life force. This is not judgment of others, but a sacred protection of your own bandwidth. You have silently declared that your consciousness is too valuable to be a pawn in the games of distraction and low-frequency drama. This demagnetization is the quiet act of withdrawing your energetic consent from narratives that deplete you. It's as though you're speaking a frequency that others around you haven't yet tuned into. Imagine tuning a radio. Your station is suddenly broadcasting on 98.6 FM, but the people around you are still fixed on 93.1 FM, receiving only static when they attempt to connect with your signal. This feeling of being fundamentally misunderstood, or of having to explain concepts that feel self-evident to you, is a marker of accelerated energetic separation. Your internal dialogue, your core assumptions about reality, and your personal value system are now operating on a distinct channel. This is the necessary isolation that precedes the gathering of the next, more aligned tribe. It is the time when you must trust the signal you are broadcasting, even if the world around you seems to be missing the memo. What you're witnessing is the energetic reconfiguration that occurs when your consciousness prepares itself for quantum alignment. This is the deep, structural work of the universe, preparing you to hold a greater capacity of light, wisdom, and opportunity. Quantum alignment, in this context, is the state where your inner world, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, is perfectly mirrored by your outer world, experiences, relationships, opportunities. It's the moment your entire being becomes an unfragmented, coherent beam. The reconfiguration is the demolition phase, The old wiring must be stripped out so the new, higher capacity infrastructure can be installed. This process is never neat, but it is always necessary for the expansion you have subconsciously demanded of life. Your entire system is reorganizing itself for the reality that's already forming in the field around you. This concept is crucial. The new reality is not a future event you need to chase. It is an arrangement of potentiality that exists right now in the non-physical quantum field. Your system is reorganizing to meet it. Think of your consciousness as a receiving dish. The new reality is a satellite signal. You are adjusting the tilt, angle, and focus of your dish so that the signal can lock on and be downloaded into your material experience. The body, the mind, and the spirit are all aligning their coordinates to match the potential that is calling you forward, ensuring that when the reality materializes, you have the internal structure to hold it without collapsing. The disorientation you feel is simply the gap between the version of you that existed yesterday and the version that is emerging right now in this present moment. The gap is a sacred space of non-form. It's the bridge between two stable states, and bridges are inherently in motion. When you feel anxious or restless, try to relabel that sensation as being on the bridge. The anxiety is just the energy of the former identity trying to return to its comfortable, albeit smaller, shape. The restlessness is the forward momentum of the emerging identity attempting to gain traction. The key to surviving the gap is to realize you are not broken. You are simply in transition, living momentarily in the space between two truths of yourself. Most people completely bypass these signals because they've been conditioned to interpret them through the wrong framework. We are taught to measure worth by performance and transformation by visible metrics. Therefore, when inner tension arises, when relationships drop off, or when old goals lose their luster, the dominant cultural framework labels it as a midlife crisis, a slump, or a bout of depression. This is a failure of language and spiritual education. The human tendency is to revert to familiar narratives of struggle because they are culturally sanctioned, preventing a deeper, more profound self-inquiry into what the tension is actually for. They label this phase as struggle or setback when they're actually moving through an initiation period. An initiation is a sacred and often challenging period of trial designed not to break you, but to test the integrity of your new foundation. It proves to you, at a cellular level, that you are ready for the next level of your own power. When you stop fighting the tension and start inquiring into its purpose, the struggle dissolves into acceptance. The universe is not punishing you. It is inviting you to prove to yourself that your new level of consciousness is stable enough to be your new default state. They read the tension of expansion as proof of regression when their entire energetic architecture is simply creating capacity for something far more aligned with their true nature. The energetic expansion required to hold a greater vision is often felt in the body as profound tension, a tightness in the chest, a restless dissatisfaction, a feeling of being too big for your own skin. This is the difference between contraction, regression, and expansion, growth. Regression pulls inward, closing you off. Expansion pushes outward, seeking to create new space. The discomfort is merely the skin of the old reality, stretching and tearing to accommodate the volume of the new you. Notice how situations that once generated intense emotional charge within you now pass through your field without creating the same disturbance. The concept here is that you have raised your internal set point. An intense emotional charge is merely a collision between a high-frequency external event and a low-frequency internal pattern. By raising your internal vibration, you have created a buffer zone, an energetic field of insulation. The event still happens, but it cannot penetrate your field. It simply bounces off the integrity of your new internal peace. This is the mastery of the witness consciousness, where you observe the storm without becoming the lightning rod. The friend whose chaos used to hook your attention no longer activates that pattern. For years, their chaos provided a perverse sense of familiarity, a pattern to fix, a drama to solve, or a comparison to make that made you feel momentarily superior or necessary. That deep, codependent hook is now dissolving. You have finally disinvested your personal identity from the necessity of their drama. You can listen with genuine compassion, but you no longer feel the internal compulsion to dive into the rescue, solve the problem, or absorb the emotional spillage. This boundary is not callous. It is simply the natural byproduct of becoming radically responsible for your own emotional ecosystem. The workplace dynamic that once consumed your mental energy at night now registers as neutral data. How many hours have you lost to ruminating on the small, meaningless slights or bureaucratic nonsense of the past? That mental consumption was an energy leak, an unnecessary investment in a low-yield portfolio. Now, your mind is learning to categorize that data as non-essential. It is simply information to be processed, not trauma to be internalized. This is a profound energetic efficiency upgrade. You are no longer paying the rent in your mind for things that do not belong to your highest trajectory. This isn't emotional numbness or spiritual bypassing. This is a critical distinction. Emotional numbness is a blockage, a refusal to feel. Spiritual bypassing is an avoidance and intellectualization to skip the uncomfortable feeling. The shift you are experiencing is neither. It is emotional granularity, a high-resolution awareness of exactly what you are feeling, paired with the wisdom to know that not every feeling requires a reaction. You are not suppressing the emotion. You are processing it so efficiently that it moves through your system in seconds rather than hours or days. Your neutrality is an expression of mastery, not apathy. Your internal calibration system has adjusted itself to match the frequency of where your consciousness is moving, not where it has been residing. This is the profound mechanism of future self-magnetism. You are literally being pulled forward by the vibration of the reality you are becoming. This is why you feel misaligned with your present. Your inner compass is pointing to a different destination than your current coordinates. The calibration is your body and mind adjusting their physical and energetic outputs to resonate with the target frequency. You are aligning your day-to-day choices with the energy of the person you will be a year from now, making the emergence of that future self inevitable. This is how your energy body protects your life force for what truly matters in your evolution. Your energy body is not a passive sponge. It is an intelligent, bioelectric field designed for self-preservation. When it senses a dramatic increase in the potential for higher alignment, it automatically sheds any activity, person, or thought that poses a threat to the integrity of that ascent. It's like a sophisticated alarm system that has been upgraded to recognize subtle energy vampirism and intellectual clutter as a greater threat than visible danger, allowing your core power to be directed solely toward your evolutionary path. Consider the way technology responds when its power reserves drop below a certain threshold. It automatically shifts into conservation protocol. This is a perfect metaphor for the current state of your consciousness. When a smartphone hits 10% battery, non-essential functions are immediately curtailed. Background applications close. Screen luminosity decreases. Only essential functions continue operating. Your soul is doing the exact same thing. It is shutting down the energy drains, the unnecessary guilt cycles, the social media scrolling, the need to impress, because those activities are draining the precious reserve required for your quantum leap. Your consciousness is initiating the same intelligent process right now. Except instead of preserving battery percentage, it's preserving quantum coherence. Coherence is the measure of how aligned your inner and outer worlds are. The conservation protocol is designed to eliminate internal contradictions. It stops you from saying one thing and doing another, from valuing one thing and chasing another, because that fragmentation is the greatest energy drain of all. The energy saved from closing the background apps is reinvested directly into solidifying the core signal you are broadcasting to the universe. The connections that once felt necessary to your identity now feel like optional attachments. You used to need certain people to confirm your self-worth, provide direction, or fill a space of loneliness. Your identity was built upon the scaffold of these external attachments. As your core self solidifies, the scaffold is no longer needed. The connections remain if they are based on genuine love and alignment, but the need for them dissolves. The shift from need to choice is the definition of energetic liberation. You are no longer attached. You are simply connected by resonance. The commitments that filled your calendar now reveal themselves as interference patterns. The busyness of your calendar was, for a long time, a shield away to avoid the quiet contemplation necessary for deep change. Many of those commitments were inherited, agreed to out of obligation, or pursued because you believed they made you look important. Now, you recognize that anything that interrupts your internal flow and contradicts your highest values is an interference pattern. They are not bad activities. They are simply signals that conflict with your own, requiring a decisive cancellation to clean up the noise in the field. The aspirations that once excited your imagination now feel misaligned with your actual trajectory. This can be jarring. You may have worked for years toward a specific career goal, a certain relationship status, or a physical achievement, only to wake up and feel a profound emptiness regarding that goal. This isn't a failure of ambition. It's an upgrade of destiny. Your true trajectory has revealed itself to be far vaster, and the old aspirations, though honorable, are simply too small for the consciousness you are now embodying. The new direction often feels more effortless and more deeply satisfying, even if it is currently undefined. This isn't spiritual depression or existential apathy. This is clarity dissolving the interference between you and your authentic path. The feeling of being blah or unmotivated is simply your system saying, I am no longer willing to invest energy in the illusion. It is the powerful, decisive voice of your soul refusing to participate in the game of unworthiness. Clarity, in this context, is the sudden, non-negotiable understanding of what you are here to do, and more importantly, what you are not here to do. The resultant apathy is the energy moving out of the old pursuits and preparing to flow entirely into the new aligned path. Here's the part about winning seasons that remains hidden from most people's awareness. They don't begin with dramatic external events. They begin with a quiet knowing that rewrites your internal operating system. This knowing is often a subtle voice, a gut feeling, or a flash of insight that is instantly non-negotiable. It is the deep conviction that you are moving into something more, and this knowing is the first line of code in the new operating system. This quiet internal rewrite is a shift from an operating system based on external fear and scarcity to one based on internal trust and abundance. This begins with a subtle recalibration in how you perceive your worth and what you're willing to accept as your reality. A new standard of self-worth is established in moments of silent refusal. It's when you delete the half-written text message seeking approval, or when you calmly state a boundary you would have previously apologized for. This new reality threshold is where you decide, without fanfare, that certain behaviors, certain levels of disrespect, and certain outcomes are simply no longer available to you. The recalibration of worth precedes the external reality shift, acting as the magnetic core that draws in matching circumstances. The obvious transformations that others eventually witness come much later. It is easy to be discouraged when the internal shift hasn't yet produced the external reward. Remember the metaphor of the seed. The most intense, crucial growth is happening underground. The roots are strengthening. The structure is forming. The blueprint is being solidified in the darkness. The visible changes, the new job, the new relationship, the breakthrough, are merely the surface manifestations of the invisible, foundational work you have been doing consistently for months. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active trust in the unseen gestation period. Right now, You re-inside the foundation phase, where the real alchemy is happening beneath the surface of your visible life. The foundation phase is messy, dark, and often feels unrewarded. This is where you confront the shadow self, integrate the past traumas, and do the hard, unglamorous work of self-forgiveness. Alchemy is the transformation of base metal into gold, and your consciousness is the base metal. The heat of this initiation is turning your old fear and doubt into the solid, gleaming structure of self-trust, preparing you to hold the gold of your winning season. And this foundation phase has layers that most spiritual teachings never address. Many popular teachings focus on simple affirmation or visualization, skipping the crucial, uncomfortable steps of grief and neurobiological restructuring. The true foundation requires the emotional maturity to feel the weight of what is being lost, and the scientific understanding that your physical brain is lagging behind your conscious decision. We must honor the full, holistic nature of this transformation, not just the parts that feel immediately good or empowering. There is a quantum principle at work here that scientists are only beginning to understand through studies of observer effect and field coherence. When you change at the level of consciousness, you're not just altering your thoughts or beliefs. You're actually restructuring the probability fields that surround you. The universe operates on probability waves. Every thought, every emotional state, is a broadcast that collapses a wave of infinite possibilities into one specific material outcome. By raising your frequency, you are literally putting your observation point at a higher probability field, making the occurrence of positive, aligned outcomes exponentially more likely. You are shifting the rules of the game you are playing. You're collapsing certain timelines and activating others. This is the lived experience of the observer effect. The moment you choose to respond differently to an old trigger, you instantly collapse the timeline where you would have spiraled into the old drama, and you activate the timeline where you remain calm and sovereign. The reason this feels so disorienting is because you're literally existing between realities right now. This sensation is the overlap. The old reality still exists in the memories of others and the habits of your body, while the new reality exists in the conscious intention of your mind. Your nervous system is recalibrating to handle higher levels of coherence. Think about the concept of energetic bandwidth. Your old, fragmented self could only handle a small amount of coherent energy before it overloaded, manifesting as anxiety or collapse. Now you are increasing your bandwidth to hold vast amounts of new, aligned energy. There's always a period of adjustment where things might feel glitchy or unstable. You are that upgraded system, and the glitches are simply the process of the new operating system integrating with the old physical hardware. The anxiety, the restlessness, the sense that nothing feels quite right anymore. These aren't signs of breakdown. They're signs of breakthrough preparing itself to emerge. This is perhaps the most crucial reframe. When you feel that buzzing, unsettled energy, do not push it away. Instead, welcome it as the intense, compressed energy of a future possibility. Breakthrough is always a violent act against the status quo, and that violence is felt in the body as profound discomfort. The caterpillar's process of dissolving into liquid inside the chrysalis is not comfortable, but it is necessary for the butterfly to emerge. What's happening in your neurobiology right now is actually extraordinary. Your brain is forming new neural pathways while pruning old ones that no longer serve your evolution. This process, called neuroplasticity, is the physical evidence of your conscious choices. Every time you choose a new response, you lay down a new wire. Every time you refuse to entertain a negative thought loop, the old wire is starved of energy and begins to atrophy. And it's happening at an accelerated rate because you've been consistently choosing different thoughts, different responses, different interpretations of your experience. Your conscious will is literally the sculptor of your physical brain structure. Every time you choose differently, you strengthen new pathways and weaken old ones. Over time, what once required tremendous effort becomes automatic. This is the journey from conscious competence to unconscious competence. The initial conscious effort of choosing the high road is the hard work. But eventually, the new pathway becomes the path of least resistance, the default setting. The beautiful realization is that the person you are striving to be is simply the accumulation of a million small, conscious choices to choose differently in the present moment. But here's what makes this phase so challenging. Your brain's limbic system, the ancient survival part of your mind, interprets all change as potential danger. The amygdala is not interested in your highest timeline. It is interested in your immediate survival. It doesn't distinguish between good change and bad change. Change equals uncertainty, and uncertainty triggers the alarm system. This is a critical realization. Your biology is fighting your spiritual evolution. It's not your fault you feel anxious. It's your biology trying to protect the old known reality, even if the old reality was miserable. So even though you're moving towards something better, something more aligned, your nervous system might be generating anxiety or resistance. This is completely normal. This is the classic mind-body conflict. This is your biology trying to protect you. The key is recognizing it for what it is and continuing to move forward anyway. Do not fight the anxiety. Acknowledge it. Say to your limbic system, "Thank you for the warning. I see the change and I acknowledge your discomfort, but I choose to lead us forward." This is the ultimate act of conscious leadership over your own physical being. Your tolerance threshold for misaligned energy has contracted significantly. This is felt as an immediate physical repulsion. An off-key statement in a conversation, a toxic email, a low vibrational environment. These things are no longer just annoying. They are physically intolerable. Your energy body has built a highly sophisticated filter. You find yourself declining invitations without constructing elaborate justifications. The simple, sovereign no is now sufficient. This is the most profound freedom. You realize that the person who truly respects you requires no explanation, and the person who doesn't will not accept one anyway. You're exiting conversations that would have captured your attention for hours in your previous state. Your time is now measured in units of purpose, not consumption. The moment a conversation dips into a loop of depletion, your consciousness gracefully initiates the exit. This is not rudeness. It is a profound respect for the limited, precious resource of your life force energy. You re-choosing with greater speed because you no longer questioning the intelligence of your intuitive guidance system about people and circumstances. The intuitive knowing has proven its reliability, and the old need for endless deliberation has dissolved. This shift isn't about hardening your heart or raising protective walls. It's about calibrating yourself to your authentic frequency instead of the borrowed frequency you believed you should embody when you were functioning in survival consciousness. Your previous niceness was often a performance driven by the fear of exclusion or disapproval. Now you're operating from sovereign choice, where every decision gets filtered through a simple question. Does this move me toward or away from my highest timeline? This single question becomes the ultimate compass. It eliminates the thousands of conflicting thoughts and emotional biases. The concept of the highest timeline is the most vibrant, coherent, and fulfilling version of your life available to you right now. Filtering through this lens instantly dissolves indecision, revealing the path of optimal alignment. What makes this phase particularly challenging is the sensation of isolation it can generate. You feel like an island looking across the water at a shore you recently left. You're transforming at a velocity that exceeds the pace of those in your immediate environment. This velocity differential is the source of the distance. You are thinking in terms of decades of growth and new possibilities, while those who are comfortable with the old patterns are caught in the same weekly loops you have already completed and exited. Some people in your circle might even verbalize that you seem altered, withdrawn, or fundamentally different. They're reading the field accurately. You have transformed. Do not argue with their assessment. Simply accept the new reality. Their perception of your withdrawal is simply your consciousness redirecting its focus inward, away from external validation. But transformation isn't abandonment, even when it registers that way to people who remain comfortable with the previous version of you that no longer exists. You are honoring your true self, which is the most loving thing you can do for anyone in your proximity, even if they cannot immediately see it. Here's the quantum truth about consciousness expansion that spiritual teachings rarely address directly. Each time you elevate to a new level of awareness, you must complete a grief cycle for the identity you're releasing. Grief is the emotional tax of transformation, not because that identity was flawed or insufficient, but because attachment to expired versions of self prevents the emerging version from fully materializing in your reality. You cannot wear the clothing of your childhood body into this new season. This grief isn't always obvious or dramatic. Sometimes it shows up as a vague melancholy you can't quite name. This is the subconscious saying goodbye to the familiar comfort of the old pain, the old struggle. Sometimes it appears as nostalgia for times that weren't actually better, just familiar. This is the psyche preferring a known quantity, even a negative one, to the profound uncertainty of the unknown new. Your psyche is saying goodbye to an entire way of being. And that goodbye deserves to be acknowledged, even as you step forward into what's next. There's also a phenomenon that happens during this transition that feels almost like homesickness, except you're not missing a place. You're missing a version of yourself. You might find yourself looking at old photos or remembering moments from your past with an ache in your chest. This isn't regression. This is integration. You are not going backward. You're honoring what was while making space for what's becoming. You are weaving the strength and wisdom of the past version into the capacity of the emerging version, making the new self richer and more complete. Your winning season isn't about achieving some future state of perfection or having all variables resolved. It's about functioning from internal coherence instead of external validation. The freedom you seek is not in a bank account or a title. It is in the simple act of no longer performing for people whose attention was never genuinely directed toward you anyway. You're no longer seeking permission from people whose perspectives you don't actually value or respect. You are operating entirely from your own internal truth, which is the ultimate source of personal power. This frequency shift manifests in small behavioral changes that might appear insignificant, yet they represent revolutionary transformation. Consider the morning. You stop reaching for your device the moment you wake because you are more interested in your own consciousness than consuming others' projected realities. This small choice reclaims the first, most precious moments of your day for self-alignment. You stop defending your boundaries because you've realized that people who honor your energy don't require explanations, and people who violate your energy won't accept them regardless of how you frame them. You begin making choices based on their alignment with your long-term vision, instead of their capacity to generate immediate emotional satisfaction. This is the shift from a child consciousness, instant gratification, to a sovereign consciousness, long-term investment. You select the uncomfortable truth over the comfortable illusion. You choose the challenging path that leads toward meaning over the frictionless path that leads toward emptiness. This is the quiet courage of your winning season. The people who belong in your winning season will recognize these changes without you needing to justify or explain them. They will resonate with your new frequency, not because you are telling them about it, but because they are feeling it. They'll witness your expansion and feel inspired to expand alongside you. The people who don't belong in this chapter will resist your transformation because your evolution forces them to confront their own stagnation patterns. This is the magnetic consequence of your coherence. You're becoming selective about where you invest your consciousness. You're choosing depth over breadth in every dimension of your existence. This is the ultimate investment strategy. Fewer connections, but ones that touch your soul. Fewer activities, but ones that feed your purpose. Fewer goals, but ones that align with your essence. This intense selectivity creates a vacuum that the universe rushes to fill with experiences that are equally deep, meaningful, and aligned with your highest truth. It's also about new people entering who match your elevated frequency. This is the magnetic pull in action. Unexpected connections forming with people who seem to understand you without lengthy explanations. Conversations that go deep within minutes instead of staying surface level for months. Relationships that feel easy and natural instead of requiring constant maintenance and negotiation. This is the pure joy of the universe responding to the new signal you are broadcasting, creating a harmonious ecosystem around your elevated consciousness. Your perception of time itself has shifted. You no longer feel that frantic rush against the clock. Minutes can feel like hours when you're fully present. Days can pass in what feels like moments when you're in flow. You are understanding that time is not a fixed construct, but is actually fluid, responsive, malleable, and your relationship with it determines your experience. When you are fully present, you are outside of linear time, making your actions exponentially more potent and effective. But now you're discovering that when you align with your natural rhythm, time seems to expand. You accomplish more with less effort. You create space where there seemed to be none. This is the miracle of energetic efficiency. When you are coherent, you do not waste a single second on fragmentation, worry, or unaligned action. You are working with the flow of temporal reality, not against it, which is the most powerful time management technique of all. Your cognitive processing has also upgraded its functioning. You're detecting patterns that previously remained invisible to your awareness. You're connecting information streams that seemed unrelated in your former perspective. This is the emergence of higher intuitive intelligence. The fragmented pieces of data in your life, a book quote, a random comment, a dream image, are suddenly snapping into a cohesive pattern, giving you clear foresight and actionable wisdom. You're retrusting your intuitive intelligence more because you've learned to distinguish between fear-generated thoughts and wisdom-sourced insights. The anxiety that once accompanied decision-making has transformed into confidence in your ability to navigate whatever unfolds in your path. This confidence is not based on the belief that you won't fall, but on the certainty that you have the capacity to rise again. This is a quiet knowing that comes from having walked through fire and discovered you didn't burn. You transformed. Your nervous system has learned that discomfort doesn't equal danger. That uncertainty doesn't equal catastrophe. That change doesn't equal loss. This deep learning is somatic. Your body knows it now. Your cells remember it. This is why you can remain calm in situations that would have completely overwhelmed you before. You've expanded your capacity. You've increased your bandwidth. You've strengthened your energetic container. This is the ultimate personal power. This is why synchronicities are appearing in forms they never manifested before. It's not mystical intervention or random luck. It is the logical consequence of your coherence. It asks that you finally operating at the resonance where aligned opportunities can locate you in the quantum field. When you are not fragmented or perpetually in emergency mode, you are available to receive the subtle, perfectly timed messages from the field. Your winning season is less about circumstances rearranging themselves externally, and more about you transforming in ways that make elevated circumstances inevitable. The career breakthrough, the aligned relationship, the recognition, these are simply material reflections of the consciousness work you've been doing. You are no longer praying for a miracle. You are becoming the energetic magnet that makes the miracle an inevitability. Think about the last time you returned to a space from your early years after being away for an extended period. Everything appears smaller than your memory held it. That's precisely what's happening to your entire reality structure right now. Except instead of outgrowing a physical room, you're outgrowing an entire identity construct, and the reality field it generated. Your current reality feels too small, outdated, and irrelevant, simply because the scale of your consciousness has grown exponentially. The strangest element about approaching your winning season isn't the obvious external markers. It's the subtle consciousness shifts that happen weeks or months before physical reality catches up to your new frequency. Your awareness begins functioning as though it already possesses knowledge your thinking mind hasn't consciously accessed yet. This is the deep, intuitive foresight that allows you to make decisions that only make sense in retrospect, but which were perfectly aligned to your highest timeline. Notice how your sleep patterns have been shifting lately. Not necessarily improving or worsening, but changing. The mental activity that kept you awake for hours now feels like background static you can simply mute. This isn't because your challenge is dissolved. It's because your nervous system stopped treating every minor disruption like an existential threat to your survival. Your sleep is now restorative because the war inside your mind has finally ended. Your dreams have probably shifted, too. They're becoming more vivid, more symbolic, more meaningful. You're receiving information through your dream state that your waking consciousness is still processing. The unconscious mind is integrating the transformation through metaphor. Pay attention to these dreams. There's a fascinating phenomenon that occurs when you're about to quantum leap to a new level. Your emotional responses become almost unusually calm and centered. Situations that would have triggered complete dysregulation 6 months ago now move through your field like you wearing energetic protection. This is the full maturation of emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish precisely between what deserves your life force and what is merely noise in the system. Your communication exchanges have probably condensed as well, not because you're being cold or dismissive, but because you've lost the capacity to pretend that surface-level interaction feels nourishing. The middle territory of polite performance has become impossible for you to navigate anymore. When someone asks about your state of being, you offer them authentic truth or you offer them nothing at all. The inauthentic creates a profound physical discomfort now, which is your system protecting its energetic integrity from leaks. You used to scroll through social platforms for hours, absorbing everyone else's curated highlights and manufactured struggles. Now you find yourself disconnecting after 5 minutes because other people as projected dramas feel like a language you no longer understand. Not because you've stopped caring about humanity, but because you've stopped using other people's lives as an escape mechanism from your own direct experience. You are choosing to be the author of your life, not a consumer of everyone else's manufactured narrative. The ultimate breakthrough in your winning season is how your problems begin resolving themselves. Not through magical thinking or manifestation techniques, but through the compounding effect of making slightly more aligned choices consistently across time. The financial burden starts decreasing because you stop purchasing things that don't serve your actual needs. The relationship tensions start dissolving because you stop accepting behavior patterns that diminish your energy. Your consciousness has essentially upgraded its operating system, and now it's running all programs with greater efficiency. In physics, there's something called the observer effect. The act of observation changes what's being observed. When you shift into a state of internal completeness, you're observing reality from a frequency of abundance. And reality reorganizes itself to match that frequency. You're not manifesting through force or technique. You're manifesting through being, through embodiment, through becoming the frequency first, so that matching circumstances can find you in the field. This entire journey is about moving from quantum decoherence, scattered, fragmented, pulled in multiple directions, to quantum coherence, everything in your life beginning to align, to move in the same direction, to support the same vision. It actually takes more energy to live in contradiction, to maintain masks and personas, to fragment yourself across multiple incompatible realities, living in alignment, living in coherence, living in your truth. This is actually the path of least resistance. Your relationship with failure and success is transforming completely. You used to see them as opposites. Success was good. Failure was bad. But now you're beginning to understand that every experience is simply data. Every outcome is feedback from the field, showing you what's aligned and what isn't. When something doesn't work out the way you planned, you no longer spiral into shame or self-doubt. You ask different questions. What is this showing me? What adjustment is needed? What's the universe redirecting me toward? Your winning season isn't about everything going perfectly according to your plans. It's about trusting the intelligence of the field, especially when things don't go according to plan. It's about knowing that you're being guided, redirected, refined. This shift eliminates suffering because you understand that sometimes alignment means things falling apart so they can come together in a better configuration. This winning season is grounded in the recognition that your worthiness isn't conditional. It's not something you earn through achievement or lose through failure. It's intrinsic. It's your birthright. When you know your worth is non-negotiable, you stop trying to prove it. You stop performing for validation. That state of being, that grounded presence in your inherent worthiness, is what creates the magnetic field that draws your winning season toward you.